Hello, fabulous fourth grade. Today we're going to look at a review lesson that we've done before, but we're going to go back and look to see how much you remember. We're going to look at interactions of living things, plants, and photosynthesis. Let's take a look at the standard for this lesson. Support an argument with evidence that plants get the materials they need for growth and reproduction, chiefly through a process in which they use carbon dioxide from the air, water, and energy from the sun to produce sugars, plant materials, and waste, which is oxygen, and that this process is called photosynthesis. Now take a look at this standard. Think about what you should know and what you should show based on this standard. So I want you to unpack your standard and look at your know and show for this particular standard. After taking a look at your standard, here are a list of things that you should know based on the standard we're covering. You should know about arguments, plants, evidence, materials, growth, reproduction, process, carbon dioxide, photosynthesis, air, water, energy, sun, sugars, plant material, waste, and oxygen. Those are all the things you should know for this standard. Now, in order to show what you know, you need to be able to support evidence. Support evidence. So this is your know and show for your standard. Let's take a look at our I can statement. Let's read it together. I can argue from evidence to show what plants need to survive. Your I can statement, you should be able to argue from evidence to show what plants need in order to survive. Your guiding question for this lesson: what do plants need to survive? So think about that for a moment before we even get into the lesson. Based on prior knowledge, things you already know, what do plants need in order to survive? Think about that for a moment. The phenomena for this lesson is that plants make their own food. Plants use the food that they make as their source of energy to help them grow and make structural repairs. And we're going to see how this works throughout the lesson. At this point, we're going to get ready to identify vocabulary words that you have heard before. You will see the words used in the content that you will be learning. So we're going to look at our vocabulary words and we're going to look at them in the context in which they relate to plants and photosynthesis. Let's review our vocabulary words together. Repeat after me. Carbon dioxide, chlorophyll, chloroplast, oxygen, phloem, photosynthesis, sugar, transpiration, xylem. Your first word, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a colorless and odorless gas made up of carbon and oxygen. And if you look at the picture, you will see where the carbon dioxide is located on the leaf. So this is what carbon dioxide is. It is colorless and it is odorless. It's a gas that is made up of carbon and oxygen. Your next vocabulary word is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a green substance in plants that absorbs energy from sunlight. So chlorophyll is what gives plants its green color. Chloroplast. Chloroplast is part of a plant cell that contains chlorophyll, where photosynthesis takes place in the cell. So if you take a look, I gave you a picture, and the picture shows the chloroplast. It shows the outer membrane of the chloroplast. It shows what is on the inside of the chloroplast. Then it tells you that it is found only in plant cells. Chloroplasts contain a green pigment or color called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is essential, that means it is important for photosynthesis, the process by which plants make food. Oxygen. Oxygen is a gas found in air or water that plants and animals need to live. Phloem. The tissue through which food from the leaves moves throughout the rest of the plant. So if you look at the photograph, the picture, you'll see a xylem vessel and a phloem vessel. The phloem vessel shows how food moves through the leaves or moves through the plant. It has a two-way flow. It shows the water and food, and then it shows cells have end walls with perforations. So this is a picture of the phloem and what phloem looks like on the inside of a plant. This word is one that everyone should be familiar with. We've talked about it quite a bit. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process of putting together carbon dioxide and water using energy from light. And we all know that photosynthesis is the process that plants use to make their own food. If you look at the picture, you will see the steps that the plant goes through in order to complete the process of photosynthesis. So the plant draws up water, which is called H2O, through its roots. Then the leaves take in carbon dioxide from the air, which is the CO2. The leaves trap energy from the sunlight. The plant uses the energy of the sunlight to turn water and carbon dioxide into sugars and oxygen. The plant releases oxygen into the air. The plant uses the sugars for growth. And this is the process of photosynthesis. Sugar. Food for plants stores energy. So sugar is the food that plants use in the photosynthesis process, and it also stores energy. So if you look at the picture, you'll see where the sugars are located and where they come into the plant in order to give it the energy it needs for photosynthesis. Transpiration. Transpiration is the release of water vapor through the stomata of a plant. So if you look at the picture once again, it shows the process of transpiration in a plant. Pay close attention to the diagram that is included with the definition. Xylem. Xylem is the tissue through which water and minerals move up in a plant. So if you noticed, I've used the same picture for xylem that I used for phloem. Pay attention to the diagram so that you can notice the difference between xylem and phloem. Let's take a look at the background to this lesson. Just like other living things, plants must meet certain basic needs in order to grow. Most plants need sunlight, nutrients from the soil, clean air, and water. If these needs are not met, plants cannot thrive. Sunlight is important because it supplies the energy needed to drive the chemical reactions in photosynthesis. Photosynthesis requires carbon dioxide and water. Plants also require nutrients such as nitrogen and potassium for growth. So you may think that all plants have the exact same needs. In fact, plants' needs for various resources can vary greatly because plants are adapted to their environment. So based on where a plant lives and what its surroundings are will tell what the plant needs. For example, cacti in the desert have a much lower need for water than banana trees, which require a great deal of water. Epiphytes, which are plants that grow on other plants, do not require soil because they obtain nutrients and water directly from the air and rain. So once again, it depends on where the plant lives as to the resources that it needs to survive. Let's take a moment to do a quick check. What role does the chlorophyll have in photosynthesis? Based on the information that we've gone over so far, what role does the chlorophyll have in photosynthesis? Think about that question for a moment. Chlorophyll is a pigment found in the chloroplasts of plants. It absorbs light, which is required to convert water and carbon dioxide into chemical energy during photosynthesis. Let's do another quick check. We're going to infer this time. Remember what the word infer means. How would photosynthesis be affected if the plant did not get water? How would photosynthesis be affected if the plant did not get water? Think about this for a moment. Photosynthesis would not occur since the plant has to have water to complete the process. So without water, there will be no photosynthesis. Let's take a look at this article entitled Plant Needs. Let's stop and do another quick check. Where must plants live in order to survive? Where must plants live in order to survive? Based on the information I just read, I want you to think about this question for just a moment. Have you come up with a response? Where must plants live in order to survive? Plants must live in an environment in which their needs are met in order to survive. So whatever the plants need, whatever they need in order to survive, they need to live in an environment that will meet their particular needs. Here's the next part of the article. Nutrients. Substances that a living thing needs to stay healthy are called nutrients. Plants need nutrients such as nitrogen. Most plants take in nutrients which are dissolved in water through their roots. Space. Plants need enough space to get the air, water, sunlight, and nutrients they need to survive. Remember that plants cannot move around to get what they need. Plants that are crowded close together have a harder time getting the things they need. Some plants need more water than others. Cacti can survive in deserts with little water, while the plants in a rainforest live in a very wet area. Plant parts. Most plants have roots, stems, and leaves. These structures help the plant meet its needs and carry out life functions. Plants also have parts used in reproduction, such as flowers, fruits, and seeds. Roots. Plant roots are structures that take in water and dissolve nutrients from the soil. Roots also hold the plant in place. Some roots store food the plant has made. Root hairs help absorb the water. The vessels in the center of the root allow materials to move in and from the roots. Let's take a look at some different types of roots. The first root is called an aerial root. Aerial roots are found in plants that grow on surfaces such as trees and rocks. These roots attach the plant to the surface it grows on and absorbs water from the air. So if you can see the picture, this is what an aerial root looks like. It's pretty much the root of your basic plant, more or less. So if you can see the roots in the pot from this plant, you'll see what an aerial root looks like. The next root is called a prop root. Prop roots extend outward from the bottom of a plant's stem, helping the plant stay upright. Mangrove trees have prop roots. So this particular tree, it's called a mangrove tree. It has prop roots. They extend outward, kind of the branches, from the bottom of the plant stem, and it helps the plant stay up straight or stay upright. Fibrous roots. Fibrous roots are very thin and have many branches. Many grasses have fibrous roots. So when you think about fibrous roots, you think about grass. When you pull grass up from the ground, and if you pull it all the way up by the root, at the bottom you'll see all these little bitty white roots. Those are called fibrous roots. So fibrous roots, when you think of grass, you need to think of the fact that they have fibrous roots on the bottom. Lots of fiber, think of fiber, fibrous roots. A plant with a taproot has one main root that grows deep in the ground with a few smaller side roots. Carrots and dandelions have taproots. So a dandelion, the yellow weed that you pull up off the ground, if you see the picture, you can see what it looks like. If you pull that up by the root, or if you've ever pulled a carrot from a garden, on the end of the carrot, you would see those little white roots. Those are called taproots. And a plant has a taproot. It's one of the main roots that grows deep in the ground, and it has with few smaller side roots. So it's one main root and a lot of smaller side roots on it. Can you think of any other plants that may have taproots? Let's continue with the article. Stems. The stem is the plant structure that supports the plant. It is also a part of the plant's transport system. There are two types of stems, soft stems and woody stems. Soft stems are green and can bend. Woody stems do not bend easily and are often covered in bark. Tree trunks are examples of woody stems. Both types of stems hold up the branches and leaves of the plants to support it. Stems also allow materials to move inside the plant. The center of the plant roots contain a transport system. That transport system extends into the stems. Xylem and phloem are the two types of tissue in the system. Both of these tissues have a structure similar to a tube or drinking straw. In xylem, materials move up from the roots and through the stem. Xylem carries water and dissolved nutrient sugars made in a plant's leaves and are transported in phloem. Materials can move both upward and downward in the phloem. Recall that some plants store food in their roots. The food is transported downward through the phloem to the roots. Later, when the stored food is needed, it moves upward from the roots and is carried throughout the plant. Let's pause a moment for a quick check. How does the xylem help move water through a plant? How does the xylem help move water through a plant? turn and talk with someone at home and explain how xylem helps water move through a plant. So what did you come up with? Xylem carries water and nutrients. Water and nutrients move up the roots to the stem and to the leaves through the xylem. Was your answer correct? Leaves. Plant leaves occur in a variety of shapes and sizes. They are the site of photosynthesis, food production, and transpiration, the release of water into the air. Transpiration drives the movement of materials throughout a plant. As water evaporates from the leaves, more water is carried from the bottom of the plant to the top. Water moves into the leaf, replacing the water that has evaporated. On the next slide, we're going to take a closer look at the chart that you see at the bottom of this page. So let's take a look at this chart. Leaf structure and their functions. So we have the structure of the leaf and the function that it performs in the plant. The first structure is the cuticle. The cuticle is a waxy coating that keeps water from evaporating. The next structure is the epidermis. The epidermis contains the cells that are the main sites of food production. Vein. The vein is a structure that holds the xylem and phloem. Xylem. Xylem is tissue that transports water and dissolved nutrients throughout the plant. The stoma. The plural form for stoma is stomata. The stomata or stoma are tiny holes or pores that allow gases to enter and leave the plant. Water also leaves the plant through the stomata. The phloem. Phloem is tissue that transports sugar throughout the plant. And finally, guard cells. Guard cells are cells that control the size of the stomata to keep the plant from losing too much water. This is a chart you may want to copy and add to your notes for future reference. Next quick check. What is the process of transpiration? What is the process of transpiration? Think about this question. Now do another turn and talk and ask, what is the process of transpiration? So what did you come up with? Transpiration is the release of water into the air from the leaves, and it drives the movement of materials within the plant. Let's take a look at this article entitled Photosynthesis. Follow along as I read it aloud. Getting and using energy. Like all organisms, plants need energy to grow and survive. They get this energy from the sun. The specialized parts of the plant, including the leaves, roots, and stems, work together to provide the materials that the plant needs to survive. Plants use the energy in sunlight to make food from water and carbon dioxide in a process called photosynthesis. This process takes place in the leaves of the plant. Because most leaves are broad and flat, they are able to collect sunlight efficiently. Specialized structures in the leaves called chloroplasts absorb sunlight. The chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, which traps the energy of the sun. Here, the food-making process begins. In order to complete the process of photosynthesis, the leaves must get the remaining raw materials. Water is absorbed into the roots of the plant. It travels up the stem through specialized tissues called xylem that make up the veins of the leaf. The leaves get the raw material carbon dioxide from the air. Air enters and moves out of the leaves through tiny openings in the underside of the leaves called stomata. A single opening is called a stoma. The stomata are surrounded by guard cells. When the leaf has plenty of water, the guard cells swell and pulls the stomata open. This opening allows water and air to leave the plant. When the plant is low on water, the guard cells shrink. This shrinkage causes stomata to close, which prevents water from escaping. As the plant contains its raw material, the process of photosynthesis takes place. Carbon dioxide and water enter the chloroplast. There, they combine in the presence of the trapped light energy to produce sugar and oxygen. The sugars are transported to all parts of the plant through the specialized tissues called phloem. Energy from the sunlight is now contained in the sugars. The sugars are what the plant uses for food. Oxygen leaves the plant through its stomata. The process of photosynthesis can be written like this: carbon dioxide plus water plus energy plus sugar plus oxygen. Take a look at the diagram. Look at the arrows in the diagram to find how the raw materials and products of photosynthesis move in and out of the plant. What does a plant need in order to carry out photosynthesis? What does a plant need to carry out photosynthesis? This should be an easy one. Go talk to someone about what a plant needs in order to carry out photosynthesis. So what did you say? Let's see if we agree. A plant needs energy from the sun, water, and carbon dioxide to carry out photosynthesis. Did you get it? What role do chloroplasts and chlorophyll play in a plant cell? What role do chloroplasts and chlorophyll play in a plant cell? Think about this one for a moment. Chloroplasts are the structures in plant cells where food is made. They contain chlorophyll. The chlorophyll traps and uses energy from sunlight. What did you say? What is produced when plants perform photosynthesis? What is produced when plants perform photosynthesis? This should be easy. So did you get it? Did you remember that plants need to perform photosynthesis to make their own food? I thought you did. So let's go back to our guiding question. Our guiding question was, what do plants need to survive? Can you answer that question now? Have I brought some things back to your memory that you've forgotten? What do plants need in order to survive? Here's a little hint just in case you forgot. Plants need sunlight, water, air, and soil in order to survive. You may want to add this anchor chart to your notes. This is a great anchor chart to have. What do plants need? Sunlight, water, soil, and air. Thanks for learning a little bit more about plants and photosynthesis. And remember, good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best.